public's approval of the U.S. Supreme Court, holding steady at 40% despite a number of controversial rulings. Bob Agnew has more.
40% of those responding to a Gallup poll in July said they approve of the court's work, the same number who said that back in September of last year, before the court's most recent session in which it issued a number of historic decisions. The court's lackluster ratings come amid ongoing attacks from Democrat lawmakers at odds with its 6-3 conservative majority. Only 17% of Democrats said they approve of the court's job performance. Approval is 62% among Republicans. Bob Agnew reporting.
And Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie separating after 18 years of marriage. The Dow is down 325 points. Now the NASDAQ losing 284. More at townhall.com.
Recent bank failures are serving as a warning about how fragile our banking system really is. As millions of Americans panic, do you know what central banks are doing? Well, they're actually buying up gold at record levels. They're relying on it as a safe haven during these difficult times. That's how confident they are in the dollar. Hi, I'm Lance Wallnow, Christian author and evangelical leader to millions of people just like you. We're all Americans who want to protect our family's savings no matter what. I tell people the best option is to diversify their 401k or IRA into physical gold or silver with the help of Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, just text the word FAITH to the number 989898 to get a free information kit on gold IRAs. Look, there's no strings attached. It's not going to hurt you to take action now. So take the first step today and educate yourself. Get your free info kit when you text FAITH to 989898 right now. And I pray you and your family are greatly blessed.
A Russian drone strike has hit Ukrainian port facilities at Izmail on the river Danube, a short distance from NATO member state Romania.
The river is seen as an alternative route to the Black Sea for Ukrainian grain exports, after Moscow pulled out of a UN-backed deal which allowed vessels through an agreed channel. River shipments can only scratch the surface of what Kyiv hopes to export and are more expensive logistically. Not just that, in the weeks since its withdrawal, Russia has targeted Ukrainian ports along the coastline it doesn't occupy. It's feared Kyiv's grain exports will shrink further, leading to a potential global food crisis.
BBC correspondent James Waterhouse in Kyiv. Greece's government says visitors to the Acropolis of Athens will be capped starting next month at a maximum 20,000 daily. The measure needed to prevent bottlenecks and overcrowding. Breaking news at townhall.com. A huge wildfire in British Columbia close to the U.S. border.
The Eagle Bluff wildfire is still classified as out of control. Planes and helicopters have dumped water from nearby Osuyas Lake onto the flames in the mountains, and firefighters have battled them on the ground, but they haven't been able to contain the fire. Nevertheless, officials said it hadn't expanded much more on its eastern flank, which is on the edge of the town of Osuyas. That has meant only a few dozen properties are still facing evacuation orders.
BBC correspondent Nada Tofwick. A patient escaped from one of Maryland's state-run psychiatric hospitals Tuesday by exiting through a shot-out window and fleeing in a waiting getaway car. 19-year-old Darren Lee Jeter was found in Montgomery County later. That's about 100 miles from the Eastern Shore Hospital Center. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
News, analysis, opinion.
They drafted a vague agreement so Hunter could walk away saying he understood that the case was closed.
The Department of Justice was acting like a co-conspirator.
It was a political exercise.
This is News Talk STL.
Putin says Russia is ready to fill the gap by supplying grain for African countries.
They don't like these real images because they were hoping people would forget.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
I love you too, I will tell you that.
And newstalkstl.com. This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
The heavy rain from this morning has moved on. Still a chance for a few showers as we head into the early afternoon, but later this afternoon and especially this evening and overnight, another round of heavy rain with the potential for flooding and possibly some severe storms with hail and damaging winds as well. This evening, overnight tonight, into tomorrow morning. A temperature today only making it into the low 80s. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
No, you guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for covering the local angle.
Come on, people. This is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com. This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Tony Colombo.
Libertarianism.
To another busy Wednesday afternoon here on Colombo and Katie on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. It is indeed Wednesday. I have, for some reason, all day today had it in my head that it is Thursday, but it's Wednesday afternoon, and we've got a packed show for you. My partner, Katie Fitzpatrick. I'm Tony Colombo, by the way. Hello. Thanks for being here again with us. Katie is not in studio right now, but she is connected via home, not feeling a little under the weather, but still doing the show. And I only point that out in case you could tell a little bit of a difference in the connection, or for the people watching on the cameras that are going, wait a minute, I hear Katie, but I see Joey. What is going on?
Everyone misses me so much.
Oh, we truly do.
So much in that studio.
Well, we do miss you, and thanks for fighting through. I know you're a little bit under the weather, and so just staying at home, keeping the germs at home, and we still are glad that you're here today. So
yes, sir. I'm excited for today's show. It's going to be very, very big, jam-packed show.
Jam-packed show as always. And I always say how much I love Wednesdays, which is weird that I was thinking today was Thursday all day because I always look forward to Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. We will be opening up Close's Cabinet a little bit after 3 o'clock, so just over an hour from now. We'll talk to Mark Close, our buddy from KC95, and Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet. Of course, Weber Chevrolet, the great sponsor of Close's Cabinet. We'll have a little fun with those guys in a little bit. Also, typically we talk to Rodney Boyd on Wednesday afternoons. Rodney, however, just was called into a meeting, so we are going to talk to Todd Showalter, brand new show host here at News Talk STL every Saturday, at 5 o'clock. You can now hear the Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Of course, you can see his political cartoons every day on our website, News Talk STL. Todd is a nationally syndicated political cartoonist and now the host of the Right Mind Show, heard every weekend here on News Talk STL. So looking forward to that conversation. And in just a few minutes, we are going to talk to Cully Stimson in studio. Always great when we have, as I said yesterday, Katie, I love it when we have company, when people come over to the house. Cully Stimson.
It's so great.
Yes, he is the senior legal fellow and senior advisor to the president of the Heritage Foundation. And it is a perfect day to talk to Cully with everything happening. Him being a legal expert, again, the senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. There's a lot of legal things to talk about right now, Katie, between everything happening with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and that whole mess, and of course the most recent indictment and case against former President Donald Trump, which is starting to heat up even more. It's a perfect day to talk to a legal expert.
Absolutely. And I cannot believe, I think that news broke, and I know we're going to get into it, but that news broke right after our show during Tim and Chris's show, I think maybe 4:20. And I just cannot believe Trump is indicted again. It's only been a matter of months, and this is his third indictment.
Yeah, 3 down, possibly even one more to go, depending on what happens with the case in Georgia that is being discussed right now by that state's AG about whether or not they're going to bring official charges against the former president. So, yeah, there's 3 official indictments now and possibly one more on the way. We'll get into this with Cully in just a few minutes, but I want to start the show here with the latest surrounding the Trump indictment, and that is that former Vice President Mike Pence's secret notes have been revealed in Jack Smith's indictment. The then vice president took contemporaneous notes of his conversations with Donald Trump in the days before the Capitol riot on January 6th, according to special counsel Jack Smith's indictment. Quote, as of January 6th, congressional certification proceeding approached and other efforts to impair, obstruct, and defeat the federal government function failed. Trump sought to enlist the vice president to use his ceremonial role at the certification to fraudulently alter the election results, the indictment alleges. It goes on to say the notes show a claim from Trump in a meeting in early January that Pence's notes allegedly say that Trump, quote, made knowingly false claims of election fraud, including bottom line. This is an alleged quote from Donald Trump, according to Mike Pence's notes. Got all that? Quote, bottom line, we won every state by hundreds of thousands of votes. And again, later on in the same meeting, quoted again, we won every state. Sounds like something the former president would say. We won every state by hundreds of thousands of votes.
It does sound like something Trump would say, but this, I guess, whenever I read this report this morning, and the idea that journalists made this seem very surreptitious, and I understand that this is Mike Pence's secret notes about what he had the conversation about January 6th. All of this, I feel like we already know. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. All of this information doesn't seem surreptitious to me. This seems like things that Trump tweeted out, now has Truth Socialed out. Now that, hasn't he already said 100 times over that he won the election? It was rigged. He won it in these states specifically. All of this is things that we know, right, Tony?
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only from Trump himself, but one of the big highlights of this information from Mike Pence's notes were also already made public in Mike Pence's recent book. So the indictment also recounts a New Year's Day meeting between Trump and his vice president, which Pence wrote about in his memoir. Pence said Trump discussed a lawsuit filed by Republicans that asked a judge to declare the vice president had exclusive authority and sole discretion to decide which electoral votes should count. Pence said that he reiterated to Trump, quote, I don't believe I possess that power under the Constitution, to which Trump replied, quote, you're too honest. Trump, according to both Pence's book and the indictment, Trump said to Pence, according to those things, hundreds of thousands are going to hate your guts. People are going to think you're stupid. In a statement, in a statement released following the Trump indictment. Now, this is interesting. Mike Pence accused Donald Trump of, this is in the last 24 hours. This is since this information was made public. Mike Pence came out. So it sounds like Mike Pence is very much cooperating with this indictment, because he put out a statement following Trump's indictment, accusing Trump of putting himself over the Constitution, and said a Trump candidacy would serve as a distraction from President Biden's disastrous record. He said, quote, today's indictment serves as an important reminder. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. I will have more to say about the government's case after reviewing the indictment. So not in the last 24 hours, but since the indictment was put out, Mike Pence made that statement. So definitely sounds like Pence is cooperating with it. And is going to be and has been obviously very critical of the former president for very good reasons, by the way.
Yes.
Mike Pence has very good reasons to be critical of the former president, but none of that means necessarily that he's guilty. All of this is, there has to be hard evidence of conspiracy. And conspiracy also, by the way, and again, this is why it's so good that we have Cully Stimson with us, and we'll be talking to him in here in just a moment because he can clarify this and can confirm some of these things. But the conspiracy charge means that Donald Trump didn't act alone. Conspiracy means you were conspiring with people, that there would be others. So that would mean that this indictment has to prove that not only did Donald Trump have a plan in place to overthrow the results of an election, but that he had people acting with him in that regard to make that happen. So
Tony,
go ahead.
And this is another good question for Cully, but could they pin Trump on saying you are asking Mike Pence to be your partner in a crime like conspiracy?
Good question.
Could they use these secret notes and whatever, the transcripts that they have between Trump and Pence, to say, well, Trump didn't get Pence to go along with the conspiracy that he might be throwing out, but the ask of him to vote a certain way, that in itself is part of a conspiracy. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think it's all part of the conversation. And instead of continuing to say we should ask Cully this, we should just actually ask Cully this. So let's get ready to get him here into the studio. I do want to remind you also that there's plenty more to talk about. This all happens, by the way. This is all going down with Donald Trump as more and more evidence continues to mount every day against Hunter and Joe Biden. And I think that the American people are getting frustrated. I know a larger and larger group are, at least, being shown just how broad the two-tier justice system is in this country. Because as Katie, you and I have said many times over the recent weeks and months, if Donald Trump is guilty of something, then if he's guilty of a crime, then he should be found guilty and held to account. But how much more freaking evidence do we need to see and hear about the Bidens, going all the way back now after that great interview, that great conversation we had with Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire on Monday, where she just posted an article about the Bidens behaving in a very similar fashion all the way back in the early 80s. Basically the mafia-style shakedown and intimidation to enrich and benefit their own personal lives. This has been going on for a very, very long time. And if you're going to have 3 and now maybe 4 indictments against former President Donald Trump, when, if ever, do we see actual action taken against the Bidens? Because I think that people are getting very frustrated to see that, when it comes to Donald Trump, it's relentless. When it comes to the Bidens, it's swept under the rug.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so we will talk to Cully about that in just a moment. Also, Kamala Harris has turned down Ron DeSantis' invitation to discuss and debate the new curriculum there in the state of Florida. We'll tell you a little bit more about that story. And the U.S. credit rating has been lowered, and today the White House reacted to that. It all comes together. It all ties in one perfect bow because the administration is blaming Donald Trump and January 6th for the fact that the U.S. credit rating was lowered yesterday. So lots to talk about as we go through a busy Wednesday afternoon. And in just a moment, Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow and Senior Advisor to the President of the Heritage Foundation, is going to join us in studio. Can't wait for that conversation. You are listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Stream Colombo and Katie at newstalkstl.com. is 101.9 and 94.1.
Female millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
So if you need to get away from the madness of this news cycle and this crazy world, there's no better way to do so than enjoying the great outdoors. And before your next trip into the great outdoors, you can prepare yourself by visiting our friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, Illinois, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's. Bluff City, for decades, has been the go-to place for fishermen. They have frozen and live bait. They have all of the gear and equipment you need for your next fishing trip. If you haven't been fishing in a long time and sort of need to build a tackle box, or you just need to plug a few holes in the tackle box, they have you covered across the board there at Bluff City. But now, also, in just about the last year, it's almost exactly 1 year since they expanded out there at Bluff City, more than doubled the size of the store, and now they can do so much more than just the fishing gear and everything surrounding your next fishing trip. They also have the archery range. There is nothing like the state-of-the-art archery range at Bluff City Outdoors anywhere in the St. Louis area. You can shoot every single day. You can join leagues out there. You can also take advantage of the state-of-the-art techno hunt system. And it is perfect timing because we are just a few weeks away now from the beginning of archery season. So you can drop your equipment off there at Bluff City Outdoors and get it all prepared and tuned up in time for this coming season. And also, you can tune yourself up by practicing there in the archery range. So much for you to take advantage of. Also, don't forget about the Bluff City Outdoors show. Heard every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. here on News Talk STL. And learn more about all of it by following Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Are you wanting to improve the look and efficiency of your home? Well, one of the best and easiest ways you can do that, get some new windows. Window World, simply the best for less. You can give them a call today at 314-993-1800. Over 20 years in the business in the St. Louis area, over 70,000 satisfied customers. That's because Window World uses double strength glass, gives it a strength not commonly used in replacement windows. They've got the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. They've got 18 months, same as cash financing. You can get them today. 314-993-1800, windowworld.com. That's windowworld.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Representative Justin Sparks, how difficult is it as a police officer that you don't get jaded and be like, they're all like that?
Because God said that they were created in his image. And frankly, when somebody gets shot or killed and their loved ones are falling out on the front lawn and they're freaking out, they do not care that I'm white when I show up to the scene. They just want me to get justice.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Facts don't matter. Lies don't matter. You or I lie, we go to jail. She lies.
Mark McCloskey on fire.
It's just part of the business. President lies, it's part of his business. Joe Biden couldn't tell the truth if he could remember it. And then you got Hunter Biden, because he's a drug addict, because he's a gun criminal, because, posts pictures of himself with hookers and crack pipes and all that kind of stuff. Now that makes him somehow wonderful.
Mark McCloskey on fire. Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Happy Hump Day. We'll continue to cover the real news of Joe Biden, the big guy, and his criminal crime syndicate with Tom Basil of Newsmax at 425. At 525, Trump indictments.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Joey V. Katie is with us. She's a little under the weather, so if you are watching on the cameras, you don't see Katie, you see Joey V, but she is with us, connected through the wonders of modern technology at home. And also, as I mentioned, in studio with us, and what a perfect day to have this guest with us. Cully Stimson is the Senior Legal Fellow and Senior Advisor to the President of the Heritage Foundation. He's got a new book. He's got lots to talk about, and it's great to see you, Cully. Thanks so much for being in studio with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I love being here. First time ever.
Yeah, really appreciate the great relationship that we have with the Heritage Foundation and all the great experts that you guys have provided to the show and the radio station over the years. And I think it's, you guys provide some great information and insight on a host of topics on a regular basis. So we certainly appreciate that. I want to obviously touch on your expertise as being the senior legal fellow there with all the legal actions being taken, both against not against the Bidens, should be against the Bidens, but also against Donald Trump. But first, I want to also talk about your book, because I think it is so perfectly timed that you have this book coming out, Rogue Prosecutors. I think it's something that everybody needs to be aware, and certainly people here in St. Louis with Kimberly Gardner, we're aware of how damaging these people can be and their actions can be on cities and states across the country. So tell us a little bit about your book before we dive in.
Yeah, thanks. And I know Zach Smith, my co-author of this book, joins you every week, and so you're getting the Robin of the Batman Robin duo here. And nice to hear your voice, Katie. So Zach and I have this book. It came out June 27th. It's done pretty well on Amazon. I hope people go and buy it, because this is not a left or right issue or a blue state or red state issue. This is a law and order versus chaos issue.
Yes.
Every single person out there deserves his or her public safety right and privilege. And we have a criminal justice systems across this country. And the ingenious, devilish aspect of this movement is that Soros and his ilk at the ACLU realized that the gatekeeper to the criminal justice system is the DA. It's not the sheriff. It's not the cops. It's not the mayor. It's not the city council. It's not the governor. It's the DA. If she says she's going to prosecute, she does it. If she says no, it doesn't happen. There's 2,300 elected DAs around the country, and what they realize is 95% of those elections are uncontested, and they're low visibility, low dollar affairs. So for a very small pittance, politically speaking wise, money-wise, they could buy themselves DAs. And what they wanted to do is, because they believe the whole criminal justice system is racist, they wanted to, quote, dismantle it and reverse engineer it, quote unquote. So you destroy the criminal justice system, which is supposed to have a hard-charging ethical prosecutor against a hard-charging creative criminal defense attorney in front of a neutral detached judge, and you put the defendant in front of a jury of his peers, and then you let the chips fall where they may. Well, they're replacing hard-charging, ethical, fair prosecutors with pro-criminal anti-victim zealots who are engaged in prosecutorial nullification. And when you put a person like Kim Gardner, who was incompetent from the beginning, with no management experience, into that office with a ton of Soros bucks, you get chaos and crime goes up. So in every city where you have this elected rogue prosecutor, either bought and paid for by Soros or inspired by Soros, crime has exploded. Whereas the rest of the country, crime has been going down for 30 years.
So when did this start, this idea of these prosecutors, what are supposed to be prosecutors that are more like criminal defendants, being elected to these offices across the country? It wasn't something that you saw before. Usually you were on the other side of the legal process. You weren't the prosecutor, but we've seen it here in St. Louis, obviously. And so when did this all start, and how widespread is it? Of course, for us in St. Louis, it seems like it's a huge problem, but does it affect the majority of the country as much as it does us here in St. Louis?
In 2015, Chloe Cockburn and Whitney Timus, a Soros and ACLU employee respectively, got together to unseat 3 pro-death penalty elected DAs in the South. They got $500,000 of Soros cash. They recruited 3 candidates, and they won all 3 races. Then they decided to go big, and instead of just going after pro-death penalty DAs, they wanted to go after DAs that enforce the law. Because why? They believe the entire criminal justice system is racist, as I said, and they think prisons are modern-day slave plantations, quote unquote. That's their words, not ours. We quote them in our book. And so they looked around the country, and they figured out, who can we primary? And so they primaried a gal named Anita Alvarez in Chicago. Why? She's a Democrat. She was the first elected Hispanic DA in Chicago, but she didn't bend a knee to BLM, and she didn't prosecute the police officer who shot and killed and murdered Laquan McDonald early enough, and didn't release the body cam video early enough. So BLM and the leftist Marxist-inspired groups were agitating, and they realized there was a political opportunity, so they bring in a little more than $1 million of Soros money, set it up in 2 PACs, and recruit Kim Foxx, who was elected in 2016. And what happened to homicides? It just exploded in Chicago. She's still in office, and then it became a national movement. So you have Larry Krasner, whole chapter in her book, in Philadelphia. You got Alvin Bragg in New York, whole chapter in her book. George Gascon in L.A., whole chapter in her book. Chesapeake in San Francisco, whole chapter in her book. We have a whole chapter on the money. This is not a nerdy, think tanky book. This is a real crime novel, like a George, like a John Grisham or Patricia Cornwall beach read. The chapters start with real crime stories from these cities. We had over 1,000 sources in terms of people who talk to us and we talk to. A lot of Democrats, a lot of judges, defense counsel. Look, I was a defense lawyer. I was a prosecutor at the local, state, and federal level. I was a judge for 5 years. I've been on all sides of the courtroom. I respect their respective roles. But to your point earlier, we need prosecutors to prosecute. Yeah. We need criminal defense attorneys to defend. And we need judges to judge. Yeah. Stay in your lane, and the systems will continue to reform themselves, which they've been doing for decades.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, I want to take advantage of being here and ask you about some of these, the indictments against Trump and the Hunter Biden situation. But before we switch off the book, do you feel like, because I feel like here in St. Louis, finally, it took a long time, but finally people were being made aware and realizing what was happening and starting to finally make their voices heard to combat this. Are you, with your book being out there and this type of issue being in the news more often across the country, do you feel like voters across the country in these cities that this is happening are starting to be more aware and stand up against it, or is it still a big problem?
It's a big problem, and people are becoming more aware, and certain cities are starting to take action. So in San Francisco, the liberal Democratic voters ousted Chesapeake. He's out of office now in a special election. In Baltimore City, liberal Democratic voters voted for Marilyn Mosby's primary opponent, Ivan Bates. He's now the state's attorney or DA in Baltimore. Up in Boston, Rachel Rollins, who was the DA, resigned in disgrace because of ethical clouds. George Gascon has survived to date 2 recall petitions, but that's in litigation, so he may lose that. So people are starting to wake up and smell the coffee. Because, again, look, we need a criminal justice system where prosecutors prosecute and enforce the law fairly, use their prosecutorial discretion well, and there are terrific Democrats who are DAs. There are terrific Republicans who are DAs. There are terrific apolitical people who are DAs. But if you're elected to be the DA, prosecute people. Hold them accountable.
Because that's your job.
Don't violate the separation of powers and refuse to prosecute entire categories of crimes, including all misdemeanors, water down all felonies to misdemeanors, don't enforce a death penalty, don't ask for life without parole for the worst of the worst, and the list goes on and on. That's what these people do. Because when they get the money, they have to enact the playbook. It's a quid pro quo. You give me the money, then I will do this for you.
I'll follow the directions.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I am so glad your book is out there, and more people are talking about this issue and hopefully exposing these actions. And we'll touch on the book again before we wrap things up. But again, it is called Rogue Prosecutors. It's out now, and I highly recommend you go and pick it up because this is an issue that needs to be understood completely by voters everywhere in the country. We're talking to Cully Stimson. He is the Senior Legal Fellow and Senior Advisor to the President of the Heritage Foundation. Wanted to get your thoughts on, let's start with the Trump indictment. Katie and I were just talking about in that first segment, the biggest story today is the notes from former Vice President Pence. And, that's being presented by Jack Smith and people that are, going after former President Trump as this big smoking gun. And there are people on the other side of the issue, and these are quote unquote experts on both sides of the issue that are interpreting the vice president's notes and this most recent drop of information differently. I want to read you this statement and then get your thoughts on it, Cully. As I mentioned, you can find experts on both sides, and one of the people that see it completely different than Jack Smith and maybe even Mike Pence is former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker, who today called the indictment extraordinary and said it read more like an op-ed or a political manifesto. He was being interviewed this morning, and Swecker said, quote, "This is an extraordinary indictment. When I read it, I thought I was reading a New York Times op-ed or political manifesto. Where's the beef? There's nothing in there that goes beyond opinion, talking, expressing things. I don't think I've ever seen an indictment like this in my 40-plus years in this business, so it'll be interesting to see. I know he being Trump, does not have a favorable judge. He has an unfavorable judge. I think this case could get thrown out if it really were an objective, Constitution-adhering judge. You would see this case thrown out very early in the process." Cully, where do you stand? Do you agree with Chris Swecker's analysis of the situation there, or do you see it differently?
So I was an AUSA in D.C. I've seen a lot of indictments. I've brought a lot of indictments. As a criminal defense attorney, I had to respond to indictments when my clients were charged with crimes. And, of course, as a judge, I had to sort through the legal issues involved in charging documents. I was somewhat surprised at this January 6th indictment because I thought, like in the classified documents case, which is the same prosecutor, Jack Smith, which included specific references to videos, audios, emails, texts, comments people made in the grand jury, other recorded conversations. There was a lot of there. And the essence of that case is, did the president, as the ex-president, have classified documents in his possession, and were they there knowingly and in violation of the statutes? That's it. And does he have defenses to that? But there was a lot of information in that speaking indictment. In fact, I don't know anything in this indictment, which I read very carefully last night, and I have a blog about to be posted at the Daily Signal, which is the Heritage Foundation's blog, with my colleague John Malcolm, who is also a federal prosecutor, about this indictment that already isn't in the public realm. And as to Vice President Pence's notes, it's very common for senior government officials, regardless of party affiliation, to take contemporaneous notes while you're in office. I did that when I was a Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary in the George W. Bush administration. All my colleagues did the same. You do it because you can't remember everything, and you want to be able to look back at those notes and record for posterity or just to refresh your memory of what was going on. And those notes, the bulk of them were already included in Pence's book.
Exactly.
And so, this is not, there's
already out there.
Not a lot of new stuff there. And I think this is the media trying to sensationalize the fact that a sitting vice president's information is being used against the very person he served.
Yeah.
Of course, people tend to forget history, that in the beginning of our country's history, the vice president was the loser, the number two in the run-up, and we had vice presidents of a different party than the president who were actively engaged in destroying the presidency for which he was serving.
Yeah.
So this is not a surprise. I also think that when I read through that indictment, and it did read more like a narrative op-ed, that the first thing that jumped to my mind when I read a criminal pleading is, because I hate losing. I'm an athlete. I cannot stand losing, right?
Competitive, yeah,
so
sure.
I'm like, which side do I want to be on? Because I want to be on the winning side here. And I started looking at that saying, well, this is a very serious indictment because anytime the federal government indicts you, you're in deep kimchi, right? I mean, you better get ready to go. And I thought there are going to be some very viable defenses that this defendant can file, not the least of which is First Amendment. And if this precedent of criminalizing complaining and firm belief that you won the election is applied going forward, or God forbid if you could apply it backwards, should Al Gore have been prosecuted under this theory? Al Gore, who many of your listeners may not remember because they're young, was the vice president under Bill Clinton.
Yep.
He ran for president.
Yep.
It came down to the state of Florida, And various counties in the state of Florida were so close it triggered the automatic recount law under the state of Florida. Al Gore lost every single recount in every canvassed county in that state. At the same time, he brought an army of litigators down there. He claimed that he won. He claimed all along, and he truly believed that he won. He took the case all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court found that, none of the counties had overturned any of the original counts, and George W. Bush won the popular vote by 537 votes in the state of Florida, and thus won the Electoral College and won the presidency. Al Gore claimed afterwards that he still won. Hillary Clinton claimed when she lost to Donald Trump that
she did the same
won.
thing for 4 years.
And so, this could open a Pandora's box that we've never seen in American history. And the real question is, these 4 statutes that he was indicted under, 3 in particular, the conspiracy, they are specific intent crimes. Now, I'm not going to get all lawyer on you, but it basically means the defendant had to have a specific state of mind when he committed these actions. So for conspiracy, you have to have an agreement with at least one other person to commit a crime, and 2, a substantial step towards that. His conspiracy to defraud the government, which is the first count, they're essentially alleging that he was doing what he was doing with others to defraud the government. Couldn't a defense, and won't the defense be? You're damn right he had a meeting of the minds of people. It was that he won. He believed he won. He wanted to ensure through courts of law that he won. So if his state of mind was to show not to if his specific intent was not to defraud the government, but to prove that he won, where's that line?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. We are talking to, only got a couple minutes here left with Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow with the Heritage Foundation. Let's try to get to a couple more real quick. And Katie, I know that you had a question. Go ahead.
Yes, Cully, thank you so much for joining us. And Zach Smith is one of our favorite guests here at News Talk STL. So thank you so much. And we love his work. And make sure you please tell Zach that.
I will.
Us at News Talk STL.
I like you better,
I
Cully.
A question. And I might like you.
I'm the JV player. Come on.
Zach.
Zach's a great guy. And he just got married last weekend. You can't rain on the parade here.
He did. And we're so happy for him.
Yeah.
I do have some questions for you, Cully, about proven conspiracy. And I'm so happy that you brought that up and gave that analysis, because for someone like myself who doesn't quite understand how hard or how easy it could be to prove conspiracy, I was wanting to know your legal expertise. Is this a very, very hard thing to get the courts or a judge to believe is conspiracy? Or is it quite easy to prove something like that?
Well, it's a favorite tool of prosecutors, and I was a prosecutor at the local, state, and federal level, to charge conspiracy. The fun part as a defense lawyer, and I've been on that side of the aisle too, when you have a conspiracy charged against your client, is trying to convince the jury, and all you need is one, to hang it up and get no unanimity, therefore it's a hung jury, that the state of mind of my client was not what the government is saying. They have not proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt that my client's state of mind was to defraud the government. Let's take the first count. It was to win, to count every single vote that went his way.
Right.
And then they'll bring in a legion of witnesses saying all these irregularities in all of these states. And it's the state legislature that under the Constitution has the sole plenary responsibility to set the rules for the election. Judges can't change those rules while the election is going on. And so my client, I'm speaking as if I was the defense counsel here, state of mind was that he's been told by his lawyers that there's fraud going on, that he's won, that this litigation has a chance, and he's been told by his lawyers that the vice president, who's the president of the Senate under our Constitution, does have the legal authority to say, hold on here, I'm not going to count until this gets sorted out by the state electors. If just one juror buys that, there's your hung jury. And a hung jury to a defense counsel is the next best thing to an acquittal.
Real quick, we're basically out of time, Cully, so I hope we can get you back so we can dive into the Biden side of things. But just from your legal analysis, is there enough evidence that the Bidens should be at least under half the scrutiny that we've seen applied to Donald Trump, that there's enough there that there should be some type of legal action taken against Biden? Because I think the frustration for so many people is that we see all this tenacity on one side of the aisle and none of it on the other side.
Well, we know Hunter was willing to dive on the sword because he was given a sweetheart deal. So we know Hunter is willing to admit he's a criminal. We also know, based on the whistleblowers, that various elements of the Justice Department and the FBI slow-walked the case so he wouldn't have more exposure for not failing to pay his taxes. And we also know now that the guilty plea got squelched by the judge, who did the right thing, by the way, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
That the Justice Department says that they are continuing to investigate him for failing to register as a foreign agent because of all the happy money he was getting from who knows whom to the tune of millions of dollars. So we know he's a criminal because he was willing to admit he's a criminal. Right. We don't know whether there's any criminality associated with his daddy calling in on all these calls. We do know that Joe Biden lied to the American people. He lied as a candidate, and he's lied as the president, saying he had no idea about these sons' business dealings. We know that the New York Times now is playing happy feet with the truth by saying, well, we always knew that Joe Biden probably had some knowledge of his son's business. That would make sense when, in fact, all along they carried his water when he said the opposite. So we know he's a liar.
Yeah.
The only question is, whether this continuing investigation of Hunter and especially these oversight hearings, which have been terrific with these whistleblowers who are doing the right thing under tough circumstances for them as career federal government employees, is going to lead to anything that would lead to a potential criminal inquiry into Joe Biden. I think when Speaker McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, says that there may be enough evidence now to open a impeachment inquiry into the president, that tells you where the politics are.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope we can get you back on to continue to unpack that issue, more of the Trump indictment and other things. In the meantime, I want to remind folks that we've been talking to Cully Stimson. He's a senior legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation, and the new book is called Rogue Prosecutors. You can get it everywhere. Do you have a preferred place for people to go to get the book? Or
Amazon is best. Okay. And after you read it, please give us a 5-star review.
Yes, please do. And please check it out, because this, as I mentioned, is such an important issue that's been front and center here in our area in St. Louis, but in many cities across the country with these rogue prosecutors. Perfect title for the book. Cully Stimson, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. It's great to see you, and I hope we can get you
Thanks
back.
for having me here, and Katie, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much, Cully. Pleasure having you.
Great stuff there. All right, we are going to talk to nationally syndicated political cartoonist and brand new show host here at News Talk STL, Todd Showalter. Will join us in just a moment on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fenceworks. STL Fenceworks is proud and excited to install American-made aluminum and vinyl fence products, as well as American-made decking. For instance, STL Fenceworks has teamed up with Jareth Manufacturing. Jareth invented the aluminum fence industry over 50 years ago. The Jareth product is wholly sourced and manufactured in the U.S., and STL Fenceworks is the third largest Jareth customer in the world. STL Fenceworks is vinyl fencing also, and not just white. We partner with National Vinyl Products to provide you with tan, clay, gray, and variegated wood grain vinyl fence products too, all made in the U.S. Not to be forgotten, STL Fenceworks is maintenance-free decking. STL Fenceworks is the #1 distributor of Wolf Cellular PVC in the Midwest, proudly manufactured in the U.S. and voted #1 maintenance-free decking product in the United States. Let STL FenceWorks make your outdoor space magical. Visit stlfenceworks.com today and learn how we can make your backyard dreams into a reality. At STL FenceWorks, your satisfaction is our passion.
From the home office in St. Louis, Missouri, it's the top 4 reasons you need to listen to The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter this Saturday night at 5.
Hi, it's Todd Showalter. This week on The Right Mind Show, we'll discuss just how woke and wacky both colleges and California have become with my buddy Professor Jim, plus our very own Right Mind political commentator, Rich Rubino, and of course, Joey V and Coffee King Kirby. So join us at 5 on Saturday right here at News Talk STL.
This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Stream Colombo and Katie at newstalkstl.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Went a little long there with Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow with the Heritage Foundation. So let's dive right in here with our next guest, Todd Showalter, host of the new Right Mind Show every Saturday at 5 p.m. here on News Talk STL. Todd, one show down and many, many more to go. How are you feeling about last week's show and looking forward to Saturday night?
Feeling really good. You know, as a matter of fact, they're letting us come back. They're letting us do a second one. I was shocked.
Congrats. Yeah, no, it wasn't a one-time deal. It wasn't a one-time thing. It's, this is how it works.
I'm not used to that. Usually, oh, gosh, I get invited back? That's never happened. No, I'm thrilled. No, I'm having a blast. Yeah.
I'm sure
I hope everybody is, too.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will be talking about this on Saturday, but I don't know if you were just able to hear any of that conversation that we were having with Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. But I think, you know, with his background, being a prosecutor and a defense attorney and a judge and now a Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, here's a guy that really understands the legal system. And the way that he described the differences between the Trump investigation and how he said it kind of read, like a political manifesto, to use the words of the former FBI director, more than it did a legal document. And on the other side of things, we have basically an admittance already by the Biden family, and because of Hunter's original plea deal, that they're guilty of crimes, and yet the prosecution of these two sides are completely different and completely flipped in reality. So as this is all unfolded, what are your thoughts on the way that we've gone about both of these things, the Trump indictments and the lack of indictments against the Bidens?
Well, that's why it just makes me really, really happy that we have such an objective media, here in the United States that, that equally covers this stuff. I mean, without that, I wouldn't be able to really tell the truth. I don't know. That's my version of sarcasm. No, I mean, it's so biased. I mean, it's unbelievably biased. I mean, it's more biased than anything I've ever seen in my life. And the fact is, I've got this. Here's the thing, okay? I think, and I'm talking from the Biden administration side, okay, and I was going to bring this up on the show, is that I think some people are so stupid that they just assume the rest of us are stupid, when in fact that, we kind of have common sense and that we can tell that this is just not on the up and up. And do they actually think that we're all buying this? Yeah. I don't see. I mean, it is so just blatantly unfair. And to think that we're just going to go along with it and act like nothing is going on. I mean, I'm surprised, I'm surprised there's not more of an uproar about the whole thing.
No, I couldn't agree more. And as I've said in the past, Katie, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the Bidens, people in that level of power, they're used to just being able to get away with it. They're used to just people believing everything that they say. They're used to being able to, kind of use the system to get away with things. And right now, they're still getting away with it, but people are calling them out on it, and they don't, they don't know how to respond. And we see that crankiness and that how Joe Biden has no patience for anybody challenging him. Katie, got a quick one for Todd before we run out of time?
Yes, I do. Todd, thank you so much for joining us. And I just wanted
Hi,
to
Katie.
direct
How's
everybody.
Maeve doing?
Hello. I am doing excellent. I just want to direct everybody to newstalkstl.com. You can see all of Todd's cartoons up on our website right now. He has amazing ones this week for us because all of this crankiness that we're talking about with Joe Biden has been playing out in full force. And do you think, Todd, that now that we're seeing the true Joe Biden and we're hearing the true testimonies of how the Biden family works, is that going to affect his campaign the way that the conservatives think it will affect his campaign?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't think there's any way the guy can run. I mean, and if he does run, I mean, aside from everybody, all of his opposition just upright quitting, I don't see how he can win. So, I mean, I have a upcoming cartoon. I mean, how can he run? The guy can barely walk, much less run. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. And to see the guy just day after day get worse and worse and just more incoherent and out there, and then to compound everything with all this stuff on top of it, I mean, I think you'd have to be just a fool to vote for the guy. And if I don't see how it's even comprehensible, even by crazy voting practices, whatever they are, they were last time. I don't see how he can feasibly win. I just don't see it. I mean, even with cheating, I don't see he can win. And I'm not saying they cheated, but if they did, I don't see how they could even win doing that. So, I mean, no, I think this is. I mean, I think he's done. I mean, I don't see how he can go any further. And if he does, we're all in trouble. I mean, I don't think he's making the choice. Somebody else is pulling the strings now to begin with. But I think even that puppet master is saying, hey, I think this puppet's broken. We need a new one. So, yeah, I don't see it happening.
That's Todd Showalter. Todd, unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but we will be listening Saturday at 5 o'clock, the new Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter, now every Saturday at 5 here on News Talk STL. And, Todd, just a little bit of station business before we let you go. I did move that complaint, that HR complaint against Joey V that you submitted on to the office, and we'll hopefully have some resolution.
Yeah, fast track that.
No. I said I enjoyed it. I said,
that's a totally different thing. Oh well.
No. I said I enjoy it. Do I owe you extra for this?
I need to go tell them.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The scarves on
I need to go tell
them
them to disregard the termination papers for Joey.
No. I brought extra money to give him a tip this week. I mean, seriously, I've never felt better.
That's great.
I have a spring in my step.
It's a great addition to the station and to the Saturday lineup, and we will definitely be listening Saturday at 5 o'clock. The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Todd, appreciate your time this afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, my friend.
You guys are the best. Thanks for letting me in the family.
Back at you, man. Really appreciate it. All right, we're going to have a little fun. It's Wednesday afternoon, which means we're going to open up Closest Cabinet in just a moment here on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
How's your health care? Insured but afraid to use it because of high copays and deductibles? You wait weeks for a few minutes with your doctor? It's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I struggle with the same issues as both patient and doc. You want to know that you're the focus, not the billing codes or faceless denial experts at insurance skyscrapers, which is why I've decided there's a better way. At Body of Health Direct Primary Care, you'll receive timely and time-rich appointments in person or virtually, whichever fits your needs and schedule, along with hundreds of free medications, transparent and truly affordable labs, and most importantly, a trusting relationship. We'll dig deep for solutions to problems and fill you with holistic coaching to minimize the need for high-powered medicine or specialty care. Now, if you need that, I'll work with specialists to streamline that journey too. And if it's prenatal care, hormonal, or sexual health that's bugging you, I'm board certified in women's health. Want a Body of Health? Get to know us at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. GOP presidential candidate Senator Tim Scott is planning a trip to the southern border. Of Correspondent Bob Agnew has more.
Scott's campaign says he'll travel to the border Friday to witness firsthand the crisis brought on in part by President Biden's lax immigration policies. He'll travel to Yuma, Arizona, where, after a tour of the border, he'll be holding a roundtable with community leaders. The focus will be twofold. First, stopping the flow of illegals, and secondly, confronting the threat of Mexican drug cartels. In a statement, Scott characterized his concerns about the border, quote, "If you don't control your back door at your house, it's not your house. If you don't control your southern border, it might not be your country." Bob Agnew reporting.
Also at townhall.com, rain on Tuesday helped firefighters that are fighting a massive blaze that swept through the California desert into Nevada. The York fire is reported to be 30% contained now. It's California's largest fire this year. It happens every year. Amber Rollins with Kids in Car Safety says 15 children have died in hot cars so far this year, and that figure likely higher because not all cases reach their database.
You know, it's unfathomable to think that you could lose awareness of the most important thing in your world in the backseat of your car. And we work with neuroscientists and have been working on this issue for 30 years. And what we have learned is that this can literally happen to anybody, and it's actually a very normal function of the memory systems in our brain.
The latest case, Suffolk County police say a 14-year-old girl died after her grandmother left her unattended in a hot car in New York for 8 hours. On Wall Street, stocks closing sharply lower. The Dow was down 348 points, the NASDAQ losing 310. More at townhall.com.
Dennis Prager here. Sue and I mean it when we say dogs are part of our family, and there's nothing like their loyal companionship. So we provide them with Rough Greens, RUFF, because we want them to feel healthy and be with us as long as possible. I know Charlie Kirk feels the same way.
The Pragers and I couldn't agree more. I rely on my trusted furry friend, Mr. Briggs, who's an absolute machine, and he relies on me to provide what's best for him. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black has packed Rough Greens, not a dog food, but a supplement full of vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, and omega oils that Mr. Briggs absolutely needs and loves. Trying Rough Greens for your dog just makes sense.
Greetings, Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here. I'm honored that the Pragers and Charlie trust their dog's health to Rough Green. I'm so confident that Rough Green can help your dog too that I'm offering you a free Jumpstart trial bag. Just cover the shipping. Yes, dog food is dead food, but it doesn't have to be. Go to ruffgreens.com.
Washington has expressed...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, and the First Alert Weather Day continues through Thursday morning with a dual threat. A chance for severe storms this evening in St. Louis, mainly 8 p.m. to midnight, and then late evening and overnight, a chance for some significant flash flooding. 1 to 3 inches in general across the metro is possible, but there's going to be some spots that could even hit 5 inches or more. Again, let's watch for a flash flood threat tonight. Low 72 with rain tapering off in the morning. Partly cloudy, hot and humid with a high of 88 Thursday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Fox News commentary.
Yesterday was the first day of August, but that's not all. It also became illegal to sell incandescent light bulbs. Oh, the priorities. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Starting August 22nd, the U.S. dollar may have new competition from a new global supercurrency backed by Russia and China. And if the dollar plummets, your retirement could follow. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon. I recommend a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get a free info kit on gold by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. I encourage you to act. Before August 22nd, text SHELTER to 989898 to get your free information kit on gold now.
Is hard at work saving the planet again. Oh, wait, just kidding. They are simply virtue signaling and banning incandescent light bulbs. On August 1st, it became illegal for retailers to sell incandescent light bulbs and illegal for manufacturers to continue to produce them. Darn it, that means shoplifters in blue cities will only be able to steal LED bulbs now. What a bummer. Now, this ban, like many stupid things the federal government has recently enacted, is billed as an environmental act to save Mother Earth. You know, so John Kerry and pals can fly around on private jets and feel better about their missions, knowing we the peasants won't be buying those evil incandescents. What a joke this is. Climate Crusaders promise you'll save money with LED bulbs because they last longer, but they are also more expensive to buy. What this really is another government overreach disguised as conservation. I'm Tommy Lahren.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
On Thursday, September 15th, the Cardinals host the Reds. That night, the Birds will have the luck of the Irish on their side when Halfway to St. Patrick's Day returns to Busch Stadium. With the purchase of a special themed ticket, fans will receive a one-of-a-kind Cardinals flannel shirt. This blue and green long-sleeve button-down shirt sports the STL logo inside a 4-leaf clover. That's Thursday, September 15th, halfway to St. Patrick's Day at the ballpark. For tickets or more information, visit cardinals.com/theme.
Let's Go Blues. On Friday, September 16th, the Cardinals host the Reds, and that night, 25,000 fans, 16 and older, will take home a Cardinals hockey sweater, courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest. Now you can look like the pros on the ice and on the field. That's Friday, September 16th. Celebrate the kickoff to hockey season at the ballpark. For tickets or more information, visit cardinals.com/promotions.
The news and talk that affects St. Louis.
Devin Archer was just another step in that process to fully investigate the true links of where this ends up to.
This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Joe Biden with the merchandise.
News Talk STL. Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. A busy Wednesday afternoon here. If you missed any of that 2 o'clock hour, make sure you are subscribed to our podcast because we had great conversations with Cully Stimson. He's the senior legal fellow and senior advisor to the president of the Heritage Foundation. Former prosecutor, former defense attorney, former judge, and just couldn't have had a better expert on this afternoon to talk about everything happening with the Donald Trump indictment situation and, of course, the Biden situation. So if you missed that, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Also, great conversation with Todd Showalter in that last segment as well. And, Katie, we mentioned earlier, it's Wednesdays usually when we talk to Rodney Boyd, but he got called away in a meeting. But correct me if I'm wrong, but Rodney's actually going to be joining us in a little bit after Closest Cabinet. Is that correct?
He is. 3:25, he's going to be joining us. He didn't want to miss today completely, but he just couldn't make his hit as usual.
That's awesome. So we will talk to Rodney Boyd in just a moment as well. Right now, it is, however, time to open up Closest Cabinet. Talk to our buddy Mark Close from KC95. Marker, are you there? Hello, how are you?
I am fine. And you, how are you?
Doing good. And, of course, Weber Chevrolet is the sponsor of Closest Cabinet, so Skip Weber is on the line with us as well. Skip, what's going on?
How you doing, guys?
Doing great. So
all good.
Katie's a little under the weather, so she is actually also not in studio. If you're watching on the cameras, you'll see the great Joey V on the Wheels of Steel. So Katie is working from home today, and we've got Mark and Skip with us as well. And before we dive into some of these stories, Skip, I might have mentioned this to you last week, reminded about how great the service department is there at all 3 dealerships, but I always go to the Creve Coeur location because it's the closest one to my home. You guys took care of my truck this week. It was awesome, and I'm actually right now, this trip into the service department got me starting to think about maybe it's time for a new truck. So for personal reasons as well as sponsorship reasons, tell me about what's going on at Weber Chevrolet as far as inventory and a good time, bad time to purchase
Tony,
a vehicle.
We just had our best
Silverado sales month since before the pandemic. And the reason is that trade-in values are still sky high. We're doing a better job of acquiring pre-owned vehicles, but we're selling more too. We're selling them right away. And so we like to have, 100, 150 used cars, pre-owned cars on each lot at the same time. And we're still hovering around half that. It's just hard to, it's hard to get them. And so our trade-ins, we're giving top dollar, but front end, when you buy the Silverado, it's pre-pandemic pricing. The rebates are a little bit smaller, so maybe it doesn't get quite as low. But what we're doing with our pricing, on top of that, is what we were doing before the pandemic. The time when we were just low and giving everything flying off the lot and all that. That's where we're at. So those combinations, that low front end price and still the top, sky high trade-in, that makes for a pretty good deal for Silverado buyers right now, and that's what's happening.
That sounds pretty good to me. I'm even open to the idea of a Colorado. Silverado's definitely my guy, but I'm open to the idea of I had a Colorado a few trucks ago, and loved it, and they've
nice
only gotten
too.
better. Yeah. So
yeah, they're nice too, and they're moving almost as fast. Honestly.
Well, we may be having another more in-depth conversation about this in the very, very near future, because this piqued my interest. I thought that maybe it ended up not being as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be with my current truck. I thought maybe there was a transmission issue, and so it got the wheels turning. And once the wheels get turning, they're difficult to stop. Mark, I know that I don't. Do you look at vehicle prices as much as you look at real estate? Because I know you're obsessed with pricing real estate, Mark.
I'm obsessed with every pricing. I go into the dollar store and my head explodes. I'm telling you, I've got, on my laptop, I've got cars coming in, website. I've got property. I've got drums. It's just one thing after another, and it's, whether I ever pull the trigger is anybody's guess.
How often do you pull the trigger? Like, how often do you actually buy something that you're looking at?
Not very often. I'm a tire. I can go to Kohl's and look at a pair of socks, and I got to put them down and walk around for 20 minutes and come back to make that $7.
I am that same way, Mark. I am that same way. I have such a difficult time. If the socks are $5, I set the socks down and I make a circle to get my mind right, to see if I want to buy something like that.
Skip, we've been on opposite sides of these debates a lot lately. You got to agree with me on this, that's a little ridiculous. Remind me not to go sock shopping with Katie or Mark.
Listen, Tony, I can't agree with you. That's not a little ridiculous. That's a lot ridiculous.
Boy.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, that is.
Apparently, Skip and Tony are running with some of the highbrows out there, because poor Katie and I got
No, I don't have to be with the highbrows to know the
decision makers.
Yes, yeah.
We're just decision makers.
Yes,
we just say, this is what do we need?
Yes.
Okay, here's a list of what I need. Is it there? There it is, right there. Okay. That's what I'm getting.
Exactly.
I'm not the kind of person that buys a lot of end cap stuff just on the spur of the moment. So that's not the highbrow stuff. But when I'm going shopping for something, go in, here it is, leave.
Right.
That's how you got to do it.
I don't care to shop. I'm with you on. My fun time is not shopping. It's I'll go when I have to. And the guys always laughed about anybody that's been in a married situation, a woman and a wife with their husband's underwear. Basically, what it comes down to is they'll go out and shop for a new pair of underwear when all that's left is the elastic around the top. Everything else is completely disintegrated. Now it's time to get new underwear. And I'm the same way. It's just like they turn to dust, and then I will be forced to go out and buy new underwear. So.
I was going to ask you a question, but then I realized that I don't want to spend any more time on your underwear or visualizing.
Probably a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, probably best to move on.
I want to give, I got to give Skip, I got to give you some credit. Our most recent disagreement was over ketchup, and ketchup specifically on a hot dog, but a brand new survey is out. See if you guys agree with this. A brand new survey asked Americans about the perfect sandwich. Apparently, according to this survey, over 2/3 of Americans could survive on just sandwiches for a week or more, which to me, duh. I could survive on sandwiches for a very long time. I love a good sandwich, whether it's homemade on just good old white or wheat bread or a full blown deli sandwich. But according to this survey, the perfect sandwich in America has ham, cheese, and ketchup on it.
Oh,
Ketchup?
no.
Yeah.
Who the hell puts ketchup on ham?
We missed this one, right?
No.
Skip, go ahead. We
No,
we went
come
too far
on.
on this one, right?
You had me.
Yeah.
You had me till the word "and." Perfect sandwich: ham, cheese, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I love a ham and cheese sandwich. I stick it in the microwave for 7, 8, 10 seconds just to get the cheese to melt a little bit. It heats it up a little bit. Put lettuce and tomato. Put some pepper on the tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then you cut it and eat it. Nowhere in that formula is ketchup.
I couldn't.
I'll put some mayo on there. Mayo on there sometimes too, just so it's not dry.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I don't need to have that, but I usually do put the mayo on there.
My gross one, and this won't surprise Katie or anybody else that knows me well. I could dip a sandwich in ranch dressing every now and then.
Insanity.
It's not a regular thing. It's not a must. It's just something that can happen, and it's okay if it does.
There should be 2 sauces on a sandwich, and
Okay.
that's it. It
What-
should be mustard or
Yeah,
mayo.
right.
Those are the only 2
Yes.
sauces on a sandwich.
Yeah, I'm
Correct.
with you on that.
Agreed.
Correct.
I agree with that, and I like the ketchup on the hot dog, and I like ketchup on a hamburger. But I guess so. If you call a hamburger or a cheeseburger a sandwich, then
Sandwich,
I
yeah.
disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree. But every other sandwich besides a hamburger or cheeseburger, I would never put ketchup on.
Well, this breaks down America's favorites in each category, like bread, condiments, meat, veggies, all of that. And in the meat department, it is not even close. It's ham and turkey are number 1 and 2, and there's nobody else even in the ballpark. Marker, what do you think? Ham,
Where does
turkey?
Where does pickle loaf come in?
Ugh.
No pickle loaf on this list that I'm looking at here. Sorry.
That could be the.
You probably
that
like
could be the
brown
worst.
swagger, which I don't even know.
Oh,
I don't know
man,
what. I
oh,
don't even
man,
know if
now
that's
we're
a
talking.
no.
I had Braunschweiger today.
Oh no,
Oh,
Katie,
no.
do you know what that is, Braunschweiger?
I think my grandparents, I've heard my grandparents
Yeah,
talk about it,
yeah.
and possibly my brother. but
Because
I
the
have
only
never
reason
tried
anybody would eat it was if they were in the Depression. That's why your grandparents are the only ones.
No. It's so good.
I had it. I had Braunschweiger
I think
2
it's
nights
so
ago
funny.
for dinner. I had it for
Yes,
dinner.
great.
Thank you
No.
very
Let
much.
me tell you, I
ahead.
had today for lunch. My lunch today was a sandwich, roast beef, Munster cheese, lettuce and tomato, and a side of 2 slices of Braunschweiger on the plate next to it. Didn't even put it on
Now
the
you're
sandwich,
eating,
just ate
baby.
it.
Now that's
That
fine
is.
dining.
That was
in
a
my book.
luxury lunch. That's better than any lunch you can get at a restaurant. It's unbelievable.
Agreed.
No, I can't even.
Oh.
What is it? Is it meat even? It like melts if you microwave it.
Liver. It's liver.
Liver sausage.
Oh, that's
Liver
right. That's
sausage.
right.
Yes,
That's
liver
right.
sausage.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, America's favorite cheeses. Cheddar is number 1, followed by Swiss, then American, then pepper jack, then provolone. I got no problem with that list.
Absolutely.
Skip, what is that?
Where's the Colby Jack?
Read that again now. Read
Number
that
1,
again.
cheddar, followed by Swiss,
Okay.
then American, then pepper jack, then provolone. I
So,
don't have any problem with that list.
I don't have much of a problem, except for American cheese is not real cheese anymore.
Yeah.
It's processed cheese food. I don't eat it. I mean, that's what I think you get on most burgers at fast food places.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't. I don't put any. And somewhere in there, what people are missing is the greatest cheese of all, and that is Havarti cheese. Havarti cheese
Ooh.
is
Good
the
cheese.
best.
Good cheese.
Yeah.
You're doing well today, Skip. You're doing well. Isn't provolone a mixture of Provel and something else?
I thought Provel was the cheese that was kind of created like here in St. Louis. That was.
I thought that was provolone. I thought that was a combination of Provel and something else, and that's why some people won't even call it a cheese.
Yeah,
if
I thought that was
I could be-
Provel. I thought not provolone. I
Yeah.
thought that was Skip.
Maybe it is.
Skip.
Maybe
You
it
know
is,
that
yeah.
you're Mr. St. Louis. Do you got?
You're
you
Mr.
know?
Cheese.
Yeah.
Mr.
It's my understanding
I'm not
that
Mr.
Provel
Cheese.
was.
You're talking to Mr. Cheese. You're talking to the Hotly.
I know. When you say cheese, say hotly and smile. I know. That's a fact.
He's forgot more about cheese than
That's a
the
good
rest
point.
of us
That's a
combined.
good point. We'll have to. We'll get to the bottom of that. But I think that's Provel that has that. But here's the part of the survey where it all goes south. And I understand what you guys are saying. Like maybe they're counting cheeseburgers, maybe they're counting burgers as sandwiches, and that's why ketchup's on the list. But burger is not listed as one of the meats, so it doesn't appear to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in this survey that indicates that burgers would be counted as a sandwich. And here we go. The condiments in order. Number one favorite sandwich condiment in America is ketchup. And it gets worse, believe it or not. Number two is barbecue sauce. What? Then mayonnaise, then honey mustard, and then regular mustard in fifth. Ketchup and barbecue sauce, number one and number two.
So
I feel like people were confused.
There's some good sandwiches with barbecue sauce. You get a pulled pork sandwich. You get,
Yeah.
those kinds.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
you can't just go to your refrigerator and just grab some lunch meat to slop a sandwich together and put barbecue sauce on it. Absolutely not.
No.
That can't be done.
No, couldn't agree.
And I can't
Couldn't agree
imagine
more.
that honey mustard is more popular than regular mustard.
I know.
And also, by the
on
way,
a sandwich though, I think, take out hot dogs and hamburgers, and I think a lot of people use the specialty mustards on other sandwiches instead of just the yellow.
Well, they're wrong.
Squirted on there.
They're wrong.
They're wrong.
They're not much different.
They're wrong.
I
don't know. My most basic go-to sandwich that will always do the trick, and I never have to worry about not having the ingredients, is just bread, preferably wheat bread, American cheese, cheddar cheese fine too, but bread, cheese, and mustard. Just a cheese and mustard sandwich all day long, every day, no problem. And the perfect complement is Doritos. Red bag, regular Doritos, not the blue intimidation.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to have more. I need to have more in my sandwich.
Oh, I'd like to have more, but I can get through with just cheese and mustard.
I'll have to tell you, for the longest time, I was very stressed because my grandkids did not like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for some reason. And the main reason is they don't like to try something that they haven't had 10 times before. So they never had it. They never really had it, so I'm not going to try it. So a couple of weeks ago, we're keeping my grandson for 3 days. We'll keep both of them. When I find out that my grandson now loves peanut butter and jelly, had it at school a couple times. And so now I'm in heaven because I make the best peanut butter and jelly. My kids will tell you this. Make the best peanut butter and jelly on the planet. Just know how to do it a little bit differently. There's a couple things I do differently it's a secret. And it was just so awesome to make my 5-year-old grandson a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and have him just enjoy it the grandpa way.
That's
Man,
great.
it was great.
Yeah, that's
And so
super
that
cool.
to me is the problem with the survey, is because I would call those condiments too, and peanut butter and jelly are way up the list compared to some of those other ones.
Yeah, compared to ketchup.
Yes,
on
exactly.
a sandwich that's not a burger. Yeah, couldn't agree more. One
I
more.
think,
go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I was going to say I think we have the start of a great idea and a great promotion. Buy a new Chevy, get a PB&J from Skip Weber. I like it. I think it's going to.
I would do that all day long.
Push sales.
I would do that all day long, but I would expand it to buy a new Chevy, and I'll make you any sandwich.
There you
You
go.
tell me what you want.
Oh,
Listen. A little like a little deli kiosk, right in the middle of every showroom.
On our busy days, I'm just making sandwiches right and left.
Like
a wow, man.
I'm going straight to bed at 7 o'clock. I've made 45 sandwiches today. I'm out of here.
You got mustard stains on your shirt. You're too tired to even change clothes. You're just like, I gotta crash.
Gotta go to bed.
That's great.
I need more salami over here. Somebody go get some salami.
Sales are going crazy.
I don't. It can't do anything but help. There's nothing in there there's nothing in there that slows sales down. Certainly.
And nobody's even said the word bologna yet. What about bologna?
I know. I personally like bologna.
Drag it on.
Love me bologna.
Yeah.
Love me bologna.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's low on my list.
Katie, no, not a bologna person.
No, I'm a turkey, a ham, a little bit of bacon, BLT. That's my genre. Bologna, I don't really mess around with bologna too much.
I like bologna.
Mystery meat.
No.
Like I said cheese and mustard sandwich. The perfect compliment is nacho cheese Doritos. Bologna sandwiches. Bologna doesn't need anything, by the way. Literally doesn't need anything. Just bologna and bread is just fine. If you're going to put anything on it, regular potato chips, Lay's, whatever it is, but just regular original potato chips on the sandwich, like in the bread.
Oh yeah.
Crunch it up, and just bread, chips, and bologna. That's a match made in heaven.
But let me tell you something. We have on road trips before, driving on a long trip, we have pulled over and eaten lunch at a random place just because their billboard advertised fried bologna.
Fried bologna.
I said, that's where we're going to eat.
Yeah.
We're going to eat. It didn't matter. We were in the middle of Tennessee.
Right.
It didn't matter. It wasn't even lunchtime yet. It wasn't even time for lunch yet, but we would have passed the exit, so we had to stop and have early lunch just because of the billboard that said fried bologna sandwiches. So that's the thing. Sandwiches are – the people that said they could live on sandwiches, they're right.
Yes.
I could live live on sandwiches for way longer than that.
Way longer than a week. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, just about out of time. As we mentioned at the beginning of the segment, great time to take advantage of the increasing inventory at all three Weber locations, Creve Coeur, Granite City, and Columbia, Illinois. Check them all out at WeberChevrolet.com. And, Marker, before we let you go, I've heard a lot of people talking about the band recently. I know that you've been out and about. What's the latest? Anything to promote with the band and or the radio station, KC95?
Yeah, we've been playing a lot. We were out last night and played Faust Park. This Saturday, we're doing a little road trip. We're going to Dorchester, Illinois, baby. It's the Dorchester Homecoming. They have a big weekend party and a lot of river fish and cold beer, raising money for the volunteer fire department. So we're playing Saturday night from 8 until midnight. Again, just look up Dorchester Homecoming. And Provel cheese, popular in St. Louis, is made with cheddar, Swiss, and provolone. So, Tony, you were right.
Yum.
That's what Provel.
Yum.
That's the fake cheese, they call it, because it's made with three of them put together.
Yeah, my oldest daughter, who lives at Disney World, is dating a kid that works down there that they met. He's from Utah, and they came to St. Louis not too long ago, and we did all the St. Louis stuff. Toasted ravioli, pork, and Provel cheese was like a mystery to him. It was one of those things.
Freaked him out.
Yeah, but he liked it, which a lot of people from the area, if you're not from St. Louis, a lot of times that is not embraced by folks that are not from St. Louis. But he dug it. But of course, he was probably also just trying to be nice to me because I.
Yeah, true.
Because I like it. Yeah, so he could have been lying to get into good graces. Mark Close and Skip Weber, great stuff, boys. Great to talk with you. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
You bet. Awesome stuff there. Mark Close from KC95, Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet as we wrap up Close's Cabinet here on Colombo and Katie. And we get ready to talk to our good friend Rodney Boy, the insider's insider of local news and politics. He typically joins us earlier in the day on a Wednesday, but had to kind of slide down the schedule a bit due to his busy schedule. Want to talk to him about a recent tweet from the Missouri Democrat Party that has drawn a lot of criticism from people on both sides of the aisle. Senator Josh Hawley, Senator Eric Schmidt have both responded to this tweet from the Missouri Democratic Party. Want to tell you that story, get your thoughts, and see if it's as big of a deal as the folks in the news are making it out to be at this moment. We'll give you that whole story and more with Rodney Boyd in just a moment here on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
If you have any electrical issue in your home or your business, if you have a large project or just have a simple household need, such as the need to replace a bad light switch, Grasser Electric has you covered across the board. We've had the team at Grasser in our home multiple times. It's one of the companies you've heard me talk about that we discovered just over a year ago when we moved into our new home, and we were doing a bunch of projects like, replacing various light fixtures and, changing the home over from the look of the previous owners and making it our home. And that's when we found the team at Grasser, and they have been just absolutely incredible. They are the best to work with. They cover all possible ranges and electrical service needs and can handle just about any electrical project you have in mind. They also offer free quotes for new projects. So if you have an electrical problem or just need a quote for new work, they can take care of you there. Plus, this is especially relevant with all the recent storms that we have been through. Don't forget that Grasser offers 24-hour emergency services because Grasser Electric doesn't want anyone to ever be left in the dark. So again, no matter the size of your electrical needs or possible electrical project at your home or at your business, Grasser Electric is the team to call. You can call them at 636-441-5200 or just go to grasserelectric.com. That's grasserelectric.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
I will have to give New York Congressman Dan Goldman the award for Best Joe Biden Cover-Up. Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's past business partner, past friend, emphasis on past, testified Joe Biden was on the phone at least 20 times with Hunter's contacts, but they only discussed the weather. Imagine the conversation. Daddy, get on the phone. Hey, it's Joe Biden here. How's your weather there? No joking, man. How's the weather? So Congressman Goldman said that just helps prove that Hunter Biden was selling an illusion of access to then Vice President Biden. An illusion. So Congressman Goldman thinks Hunter Biden is the Biden family, David Copperfield. Now understand this. If Hunter's business partners hear the voice of Joe Biden, that's not an illusion. It's not an illusion that he has access. You hear Joe Biden's voice, you know Hunter is connected. Just as surely as you hear a rattlesnake in your room, you hear that rattle? You can't see it, but you know it's there. You better be careful where you step. Hearing Joe Biden's voice had the same effect for those on the other end of the phone call. They hear Joe Biden's voice. They hear, they know they need to be careful going forward.
For more, listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Wow, that was my reaction when I walked into Napoli C, now open on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli 3. And Napoli C is like walking into a 2-level submarine. Fish just outside the portholes. The menu is going to be filled with various seafood, lobster, crab. Good luck with choosing. Napoli C is now open on the streets of St. Charles. Join me at any Cafe Napoli. Clayton, Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
There is a great story about how John Beal Roofing got started. I encourage you to read it at their website, johnbealroofing.com. That 1947 story leads to 3 generations of the Beal family repairing, replacing roofs on homes and businesses. Read the story at johnbealroofing.com. And when you need roofing help, support my sponsor, John Beal. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
When you gonna make up your mind?
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
When you gonna make up your mind? 'Cause things are gonna change so fast.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo in studio with producer Joey V. My partner Katie Fitzpatrick is working from home today because she's feeling a little under the weather and she's keeping the germs out of the studio. And there with, the family where it belongs. Get those people sick, not us. Katie, today is one of those days that I feel like is like we're in free fall. Like yes. Everything's just happening so fast, and it's just everything you could do to keep up. We've had a lot of great conversations today. I want to remind people to subscribe to the podcast if you're not already, so you never miss anything that happens here. We talked to Cully Stimson, Senior Legal Fellow and Senior Advisor to the President of the Heritage Foundation in the first hour today, about a little more than an hour ago from right now. And Cully has a new book called Rogue Prosecutors. He also was a prosecutor himself. He was a defense lawyer. He was a judge, so no better legal expert to talk to. And we dug into some of the big issues, Trump indictment, the Bidens, all of that. We also talked to Todd Showalter. We just wrapped up Close's Cabinet with Skip Weber and Mark Close. So, again, if you missed any of it, just make sure you subscribe to our podcast. And right now, joining us on the line, as we mentioned, is the great Rodney Boyd, the insider's insider of local news and politics. Rodney, it's a wild time, not only nationally, but here locally, and things are heating up around Jefferson City. I want to dive right in to get your thoughts on this headline that I was made aware of today. There seems to be some feathers ruffled by the Missouri Democratic Party. They've drawn some criticism for a tweet, or an X now, if that's what you call it, the former Twitter platform, that seemed to suggest that a house draped in Trump flags should be caught on fire. I guess to briefly sum it up, there was a picture posted by somebody. It was a house that had Trump flags and signs all over the place, and somebody said, this person who posted it said, what do you do with something like this? And the Missouri Democrat Party's official Twitter or X account responded by saying, the roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let that burn. So Josh Hawley, Senator Eric Schmidt, and others have gone after the Missouri Democratic Party, saying that this is not a funny joke. It's crossing the line to suggest that somebody's house should be burned down, which I'm not sure that they were doing, but you see why there would be some backlash to this. Your thoughts, and have you heard any further fallout from this situation?
The only further fallout, we had the Democratic state rep that's called for the person that works for the Democratic Party to be terminated or to step down and be removed from office. I haven't seen or heard how that call by Sarah Unsicker has been responded to. But look, I mean, one of the things we know is that there are a lot of people out there that have deep passions on both sides of the aisle, and everybody doesn't get the joke. Some people take things literally. And so the danger when you have on either side, if you have an official website saying if the roof's on fire, let it burn, if the danger is somebody doesn't get the joke and they take it seriously. Now, we pray and hope that doesn't happen. But this would have been, you would have had the same outcry on the left if there would have been, somebody with a bunch of Joe Biden flags. And
Absolutely.
then on the official Missouri MRP website, public website, somebody said the same thing. So I think the theme is there's no place for any kind of innuendo about violence or death in the political discourse. If you want to put Trump flags all over your house and your neighbors are fine with that and you don't have any issues, that's between you and your neighbors, and that's your free speech. But I applaud the rep who called for the resignation. It's very disappointing that this was on the official website. And this is not, just so everybody knows, this is not acceptable behavior on either side of the aisle. So I suspect somebody's probably going to be in some real trouble when there's an accounting for this. I mean, it just seemed like somebody was asleep at the wheel to put this on the official Democratic Party website.
So, Rodney, because of this crazy day and moving schedules around and all of that, we only have about 3 minutes left. So instead of digging into something, getting deep into something, we can save that for next week. But I just wanted to ask you, what are right now either the headlines in local Missouri politics, or maybe what's bubbling right beneath the surface that are going to be the major talking points in our coming
what's
discussions?
bubbling and what will color most of what you and I talk about next session is all of the diverse people lining up for different statewide offices from within the majority party. You've got people from the House Appropriations Chair to our friend Senator Koenig, Speaker of the House, Plocker, Rep. David Gregory. Everybody's sort of now positioning themselves for their statewide office. You're going to hear a lot more announcements. You're starting to see people do the fundraisers. So this is going to create a very, very interesting situation in Jeff City because of, and we've seen this before, but because of the volume of people that are vying for higher office. And then the people, obviously, that want to come in and replace those that are termed out. So what's taking shape in the weeks to come as we get into the fall is people are really putting their flag in the poll for what office that they anticipate they want to run for. They're on the phones, they're calling people, they're trying to get fundraising and endorsements in place. And many of these folks are still going to have to serve next session. So a lot of next session is going to be sort of colored by people's positions because they want to make sure in a primary, which most of the outcomes will be primary determinative, that nobody gets to the right of them. So it's going to be a very, very, very interesting fall and very interesting session, which, by the way, I feel like we were just talking about the end of session 2 weeks ago.
It's August. I know. Now it's these conversations are like this getting into full swing. This 2024 election cycle, as far as the state of Missouri is concerned, it's already in full swing nationally with the presidential race and things like that. But in Missouri, it's right around the corner now that it's
And
August.
what's interesting also about the election cycle, we now have people looking at lieutenant governor's race because the lieutenant governor's looking to run for higher office, and you got people talking about the Secretary of State's race, and every other statewide office is on the table. It still seems to be, Secretary Ashcroft, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, Senator Bill Eigel are the three names that still permeate the most on the Republican side of the aisle, vying to replace the termed out Governor Mike Parsons.
Yep. Rodney, I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm sorry. We'll pick up the conversation right there next week, though. Really appreciate your time this afternoon, my friend.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Katie, thanks for fighting through being at home, and hope you start feeling better really soon, and hopefully we talk to you again tomorrow. Colombo and Katie back again tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Keep it right here. The O'Reilly Report is next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Harp Show at 4, and, of course, the Larry Connors Daily Report at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for listening to us and supporting us here at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic. With today's high inflation, uncertain market conditions, and rising healthcare costs, you have enough on your mind. Don't let the high cost of long-term care be one of them. Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper's new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care, discusses tax efficiency challenges and asset protection. Get your free copy by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
Investment advisory and financial planning services offered through Simplicity Well, LLC, SEC registered investment advisor. This is a paid endorsement. Insurance, consulting, and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Hey, it's Vic, and I'm here with Kathy Connor at Connor Roofing. Kathy, what makes Connor Roofing different?
Hey, Vic. I'm glad that you asked.